Okay, the final game, or one of the last ones we're going to do, is the New York Football Giants travel down to Arlington, Texas, to play the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys beat them 35-17. What jumped out to you, Mike?
I'll be honest with you. When the Giants scored on that first drive, I was like, okay, the Giants are here to play. It's going to be an interesting game. But that's all I really saw of the Giants in that series. Because, I mean, Eli Manning went 30 for 44, 306 yards, one touchdown. That was it. But the Cowboys just started clicking.
Yeah,
I mean, with Prescott just dominating the game. I mean, 25 out of 32, 405 yards.
Yep, he had a perfect passer rating. 158.3 is perfect. You can't get any better than that.
I mean,
he threw those 4 touchdowns to 4 different players.
It's nice to see Jason Witten gain a touchdown. That ignited the fan. I know he was excited, to come back from out of retirement. Be able to still do that out of retirement. When you're removed, that's amazing.
What was cool is on his touchdown where he faked like he was down blocking and then come off that block and then boom, there it is.
Yep.
Something he's done 1,000,000 times, and the guy who was blocking had to say, "Oh no, here it is." But what jumped out to me is the amount of yards that these guys were getting. Like Mike Gallup, 7 receptions, 158 yards, and he averaged 22.6 yards a reception. Then Mari Cooper had 6 receptions for 106 yards and a touchdown. He averaged 17.3. And then you bring in Randall Cobb, who had 4 receptions for 69 yards. He averaged 17.3. These guys were just prolific. But to me, these stats, because you're going to look, and the Giants going to look like, hey, we put up 500 yards.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't come till everybody said, why didn't they run Saquon Barkley more? You had 11 rushes for 120 yards. He was averaging 10.9 yards a carry. Why didn't they run him the ball? Because they didn't have the ball. The Cowboys had the ball. Mm-hmm. They kept them on the sidelines until the competitive point of the game was over. Then they started moving the ball on them, and it was all in just mop-up duty. The Cowboys pulled Zach Martin out in the fourth quarter because the competitive phase was over, but the Cowboys had those guys on the sidelines.
Mm-hmm.
Ball control, just, Kellen, and kudos to Kellen Moore, because everybody's wondering what a Kellen Moore offense was going to look like. These guys were wide open. Mm-hmm. Dak, everybody, wow, he's going to ask for $50 million if he goes off that one game, a perfect quarterback rating. Troy Aikman never even had that.
Right.
He got close, but he never had it. He was like a surgeon out there just carving those guys up. And, everybody was always talking about how he couldn't, he wasn't accurate. Well, he looked pretty accurate there, boy.
Yep. And then the running game was strong. Ezekiel Elliott, granted he only touched the ball 13 times at 53 yards, but he still got a touchdown in.
4.1 yards a carry, just,
But,
it's not his stat. 4 yards a carry is good, but he's usually over 4.5 yards a carry. But first game back, the Giants, like I said, they filled the stat book out after the competitive phase of the game was over. Evan Ingram, 11 catches, 116 yards. Cody Latimer had 3 catches for 74 yards, and he averaged 24.7 yards. These all look compelling, and then the Cowboys defense, they gave up a lot, but you go back and look, Van Der Esch and Xavier Woods each had 9 solo tackles. They didn't get home but, 1 sack?
Right.
So I'm thinking the Giants, because they've spent a lot of money on their offensive line. With Nate Solder, they bring him in as a free agent. Then they drafted Garza last year from UTEP. And then they bring in Kevin Zeitler this year. And then went ahead and got Remmers in at right tackle. So those guys are stout. This wasn't going to be your offensive line of the Giants from 3 years ago where they just had a turnstile over at right tackle that you could run around. These boys they're big, man. They are physical and
it was dominant. And the Cowboys definitely put the throttle on in the second half. to what they did to him. I mean, it was just, I believe Prescott sat, I mean, at the end of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, it's kind of like they gave a courtesy,
I mean,
to them.
They literally could have named the score on them, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. They were just beating them down left and right, just dominating from both ends of the field. I mean, like I said, that's the most impressive I've seen Prescott play in his career with the Dallas Cowboys. The way he proved it, that he is ready, he is focused, he wants to win the Super Bowl ring for Dallas. He wants to get that new deal. He is showing it in that game. If he can show that every game, I would say, the Cowboys look very dominant. That's why I picked them to win the East this year. I know you picked the Eagles, in our show that we did about who was going to win. But
you remember the reason I picked them?
Because no one's ever won back-to-back.
They haven't done back-to-back. But another stat that jumped out on me, the Cowboys, the 35 points. They had 10 drives and scored 5 touchdowns. I think they could have named their score on these boys if they wanted to. I mean, these guys were running wide open.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like when Cobb had his touch, it's like he wasn't even, no one was even on him. I mean, They just schemed these guys open.
He was a good pickup that they picked up from Green Bay.
Yeah, and you remember what we heard in the preseason? We didn't hear anything about him. You never heard, Cobb's getting separation on these boys, because you remember how you used to hear about Cole Beasley, how no one can cover him. You didn't hear anything like that on Cobb this year in the preseason. But, he was running wide. I mean, this Kellen Moore offense, I'm telling you, man, this guy is...
I mean, for him to catch the ball 4 times, 69 yards, 1 touchdown, and then Cooper, like you said, 6 catches, 106 yards, and Gallup, 158 yards. I mean, that could have been a whole lot more, but they did a courtesy to the Giants.
Yeah, when they pulled the throw, and just started running the ball. I mean, if they'd have kept those starters in there, like I said, they could have named their score on them.
This could have been what Baltimore did. That could have been, and then they would have, you would have heard, the Cowboys are showing up. I mean, but the Cowboys did the right thing to, pull the starters as a courtesy to the Giants. And then the Cowboys go on the road this week. They go to Redskins, and I think that's, you don't know what's going to happen in that game because
rivalry.
Yeah.
No, I mean, when you have a division game and a rival like that, I mean, nobody knows you better than they do. The Redskins, but at this point, the Redskins, they know the talent and the tendencies the strengths of the players, but they don't know this offense because the Cowboys didn't show hardly anything in the preseason of this offense because all you would have heard is glowing reports, but we didn't get much out of it because all we kept getting out of training camp was question marks. What's the Kellen Moore offense going to look like?
Right. And a lot of it was 95% was still talking about Zeke if he's going to show up. I mean,
contracts is all you heard, but this was pretty impressive. Like I said, the schemes just had these guys open. I would have liked to seen a little more push from the offensive line. I would like to seen some more holes, but the Giants defense gets paid too. They're out there to stop these guys, and they did shut down the rookie sensation that you were hearing all about in training camp. Pollard he didn't show much. It's like I say, these shifty backs look great in training camp when nobody's tackling them to the ground. But when you start coming out there and they can tackle you to the ground, it's the power backs start showing up. Okay, this is why Zeke is great because he's got power to for these guys to fall off of him. But it's going to be interesting to see. Blake Jarwin, the tight end from Oklahoma State, had him a touchdown. Witten had a touchdown. Wide receivers touchdown. Zeke had a rushing touchdown. I mean,
and then the defense can just tighten up a little bit more this next couple of games. I mean, it's going to be this defense is something to talk about, and also the offense.
Yeah, because you saw what when you were talking about the Redskins, you were talking about the quarterback how threw for 300 yards. I mean, hey,
and 3 touchdowns. I mean, it's just. But I don't see. You never know. You can say you don't know. You don't know what Redskin team is going to show up against the Cowboys. You don't know what's going to show up because it's a division game. They don't like each other. I mean, we've all seen the history between the teams.
Yep.
And to play two division teams back to back for the Cowboys, that's saying a lot too.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be something because you're going to get their best game. You're definitely Cowboys come to town definitely gets the Redskins' attention.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these guys practice is going to be a little crisper this week. Guys going to be a little bit more disciplined. They're going to pay attention a lot more in meetings. So this
one thing that I remember during the preseason when the Redskins were doing training camp, they're building a building and someone put a Cowboy flag right on the building so you get to see the Cowboys.
Yeah,
I mean that is just a heated rivalry ever since day one.
Seems like all the way back to the George Allen when George Allen had them Redskins and Cowboys rivalry is just the best in the league at the time.
I mean, this is a game that everyone should tune in because you just never know. But, if the Cowboys can do back-to-back what they did, Prescott will have that new contract. I mean, he's definitely proven.
Well, they're saying imminent now, right?
Yeah.
They're saying imminent. Jerry's saying imminent. Dak isn't, but you get these guys tied up. You have your quote-unquote triplets to move in for the next 5 years going forward. That would be a plus. But I like how the Cowboys finished it off when they brought their offensive starters back, and the guys do the Landry shift. When they get set, then they stand up and get back down in the lineup on the offensive line. It's just throwback, a salute to the original Cowboys. How Landry's offensive line always stood up and then went down into the stance. So. That was cool to see that. You got some backup guys. You got some playing time. Did notice that, Cowboys' second-round pick, Tristan Hill, and their first-round pick from 3 years ago, Taco Charlton, were both inactive. Not hurt. They were just inactive. And in a way, Jason Garrett was talking on a radio show yesterday in San Antonio. He was alluding to the fact that they may be trying to trade Taco Charlton. So it'll be interesting to see if they can get anything for him.
Right.
You start going through the NFL, injury list and see who lost the defensive end, and see who might have some. I
mean, he had a good training camp. He had that really good game against Houston.
Then he got hurt.
And
then he didn't play.
Yeah.
So we'll see if anybody's willing to jump up there and take a flyer on a underachieving first round pick, as it were. But NFL season's it's off to a wacky start as it is every year. I mean, you had teams last year losing and looking terrible in the first game of the year, then come back to be in the playoffs. So it's going to be a fun year. And here at VIP SportsNet, we hope you stick with us.
Yeah.
And as always, Michael, what?
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, VIP SportsNet. We're trending on Instagram, and also like our YouTube page. We got that guy. We have you covered in every sport in every city. We got you covered for the best sports at VIP SportsNet.